Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Poker Face Season 2, Episode 8. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, when the episode opened, it was like Melanie Lynskey and John Cho. I was like, hey, yo, that's awesome. This episode did not go the way I thought it would, and it's so fascinating. I mean, I didn't even know where this was beginning when we got introduced to Melanie Lynskey as Regina, aka Reggie, and she met John Cho, who presented himself as Alec, and there's something like dark and mysterious about him. He keeps getting these like packages or whatever, he stuffs them in the bag, and you're like, what's going on? And she's so fascinated by him, and he talks about the life that he kind of led, and the life he kind of wants for himself, which she kind of wants something for herself too, because she lives kind of a very mundane life. The fact is that she works at it's a fund for orphan kids at an orphanage, and she's just kind of like, she handles a lot of the money. She has this 20 grand, and the only reason why she showed up there is because like the slot thing, the deposit slot at the bank was stuck, so she has to wait for it to get open. But for her, it's just like, yeah, like she loves her job, but she wants something a little bit more fun in her life. And so she's intrigued by the darkness and danger of Alec's circumstances. So kind of like, oh, never had like a one night stand, at least on his part. And so they're kind of going to the hotel room, and she's wanting to be more and more invested in it. He kind of tells her, okay, like I am involved with, a guy who was ousted from from the country of Georgia. He has this money, which was like, was it Lari? Which I'm like, once again, I'm not familiar with all the currency in the world. I was like, oh, I've never heard the Georgian currency before. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, it's almost like a money laundering thing to some extent of like, oh, I exchange his Lari for like US dollars, and I'm about to make the biggest change I did, and that's going to be 400 grand. And she's saying like, well, you could put my money in there, and I could get, instead of that 20 grand, I can get 40 grand back. He's like, no, don't do it. Just go to the bathroom, stay in there, don't get involved in this. He's like, this is dangerous, but she still wants to be a part of this because she's intrigued by it. And then the guy comes in, shoots him, which I figured something's got to be off, because why would you just randomly shoot the guy for no reason? But then she ends up shooting the guy, and you're like, okay. And I was like, there's no way this is how this actually goes down. I was like, there's definitely got to be something more to this. So Charlie comes in later on and meets with the guy and reads through him, sees all the BS. And we find out, hey, he's a con man. Now, this is the evil con man, not the good con man that we know, come to know and love in Leverage. That entire series is around bad guys making the best good guys. And so we're just sticking with like, no, this is a bad guy who does bad things, and he tries to justify it. So I thought it was this interesting thing, and it's something I've brought up time and time again about like, oh, like Charlie's superpower. I wonder, is there a weakness to it that can be exploited type of situation? But he has that conversation about like, right, he tests her abilities, but he kind of gets into the art of deception and stuff like that, kind of thinking he could beat Charlie's lie detector, but he never could. But I always said, like, I'm curious about the nuances of it. Like, a lie's a lie, no matter if it's a white lie, like even like the whole... If you don't fully believe something, it still technically counts as a lie. So like, I think even if it's like hey, you believe something, like for example, if you're telling a truth that it's like 95% true but like a 5% lie, like Charlie would still be able to call it up. It would be a lie even if it's just at 5% of a lie. She'd just be like, okay, everything up until that last point was a lie. So there is, like I said, I've just debated that multiple times throughout the show of just like, I wonder like how far that stretched, but it's like a lie is a lie. A lie is a lie is a lie is a lie. So she will always see through it no matter what. We haven't seen it be a situation of her ever getting it wrong, unless it's like the person knows how to answer in just the right way so they're not seen as a liar. That's the only way you get around Charlie's ability, is when you know it and you can kind of hack it by being like, well, I'm gonna answer the question in a way that I am in fact telling the truth, even I'm kind of going about the roundabout way to it. We've seen that happen time to time again when people, a few times around when people do know about Charlie's ability ahead of time. I also got super hyped because when we were going around meeting all the different members of the crew, we met Gene, which I had to rewind because I was like, wait, is that Gata as Gene? I was like, that looks like that's Gata. Got to the end of the credits, it sure is. I was like, oh man, that's so dope for him. I love seeing him pop up and stuff. Obviously, like, I don't know if that was his first big role was on Dave, but I think it probably was. But it's just so dope to see him, and I'm just like, man, that's sick. But either way, we got to meet the crew. Manny, which is kind of like, oh, big old softy. He's married. His SO Robin, and I love how that kind of comes full circle in a lot of different ways, but I'll get to that later. Then we also have Cliff, who's like their minute person, and I love later on, she's like, oh, I can't stick around, and Guy's like, wait, why? It's like, well, she's like, I got a job as an NBC page. It's like what I've always wanted. It's like, oh, congratulations to you, Cliff. That's awesome. Poor Manny constantly getting shit on by Guy constantly telling him to shut the fuck up, even like calling him a fat, like unnecessary shit. Like no one else in the crew catches flack as much as Manny, which is so sad because Manny respects Guy so much. It's like, oh man, he's like, yeah, like, he only gets on my case when I'm stupid. Like, oh, here I am taking a photo, but I'm including like the prop table in the background, props that they've used in other scams. Like, yeah, like it was silly, but it's like you don't have to demean him and like break him down in front of the entire crew. Like you could have pulled him aside and talked to him quietly, but like you wanted to make an example of him. So it's like you're kind of a power tripping douchebag. I haven't seen everything John Cho has ever been in, but like I feel like I rarely see him play an asshole. I'm sure, like, I haven't seen the Harold and Kumar movies in so long, but I'm sure Harold had definitely his asshole moments. I think Kumar was more the asshole in those situations. Once again, I haven't seen those movies in a long time, so I could be misremembering. But either way, I thought it was interesting that Charlie I was like, especially because Guy's trying to get Charlie on the crew. Once again, having a human lie detector in your crew makes sense. A lot of, she's gotten involved with some shady people in the past who wanted to take advantage of that situation. So, but I thought it was interesting because I was like, because Charlie can seem sometimes morally gray, but really she's pretty good on the scale of like bad, neutral, and good. She's good, but like she can dabble in the neutrally gray area sometimes, and I was wondering if she'd be okay with this. But she looks at this more like almost like they're not necessarily Robin Hood, but more so like, right, we only go after bad guys, so we're conning bad guys. So, and she even says, oh, like you're Dex, you're like the con man version of Dexter. So it's like, yeah, like, so you don't feel as bad, and that's why she was more so co-signing. But I mean, we see all the good stuff that Charlie does. It's like, she tries to right the situation, she tries to like expose bad guys and get like killers arrested and stuff like that, or taken down. So she is like good, and like I said, like maybe like 5% or so neutrally gray to some degree. But when it was raining and she had to take that satchel, I was like, oh, that's the same one that Reggie had. I just assumed like, okay, like maybe I was like, maybe that has something to play into this whole con thing, that there's more going on here. I mean, this also goes into the show like subverting your expectation, because like initially when the little receipt or whatever fell out of the bag and it said Reggie's name, at first I was like, oh, is that BS? Is Reggie actually Robin? Is there a deeper level to all of this? Because I'm under the impression like, oh, the con hasn't happened yet, because typically when we are introduced to Charlie's side of the story, it's traditionally before everything goes down. Like maybe like a day or two, or at least some frame of time before everything goes out. Charlie's introduction to Guy is after the opening of this episode already had. So like everything is happening subsequential order, which is it never happens in this show. So that was so fascinating like that, because we found out the Reggie thing already happened. In fact, heartbreakingly enough, the guilt over everything made her kill herself, because twofold to the situation. I'm sure for her, she thinks like, oh, I got duped and I lost that 20 grand, which was meant to go to orphans, and like let my greed get the best of me. I'm a horrible person. I don't know if I can get that money back. She probably also thinks like, oh, everything that went down in that hotel room, maybe she did realize it was real. Maybe she later on found out it was a con, whatever the case may be. She ended up thinking like, I'm a bad person, and that guilt got the best of her and she killed herself. And that's when Charlie's like, yo, I looked into this and found out like, yo, you said you go after bad people, but she was a lady, like we're stealing from orphans now, and the lady that you conned killed herself. And he's like, and guy's like, tough shit. And you're like, wow, that is cold hearted. I was about to say like, are you going to even feign some guilt over it? But he's like, no, because in his mind it's like, no, she was guilty. Like the fact of the matter is, he's like, I didn't even have to do much. She followed me up into the hotel room. She's the one begging to put her money in my bag, and I told her not to do it, and she wanted to do it. When I got shot, what did she do? She didn't really check on me. She shot and killed Manny, and then she bounced. She put the gun like on my chest. Didn't even stage it properly because the gun's like on his hand upside down, and she just bounced with the money. And it's like, he's coming at it from the perspective of, once again, she's a shitty person. I go after shitty people, like kind of saying like, look at the human condition, look at human nature, like this is terrible people. But Charlie defends her by being like, yeah, she made a mistake, she was human. Like, you can't sit there and pretend like you didn't grease the wheels of like, once again, it's a sad situation of, it's that thing of we are all, that whole adage of kind of like we're all one bad day away from being a terrible person. That's not the right quote or adage, but like, you get what I'm trying to say. Where it's like, yeah, it took the right circumstances of finding this person who is vulnerable, who you did take advantage of. You greased the wheels and you played into her, vulnerabilities and wanting a little more excitement in her life. And she did think like, hey, I might be doing something bad, but it's for the greater good. I can turn this 20,000 and help out more orphans with the 40,000 I'll make out of this, and like it's all going to be good in the end because I can at least do some good with this money. Or maybe she was going to keep some of the money for herself. Regardless, it doesn't, it's just like, yes, people are fallible, people are flawed, and yes, did she do some not great stuff during that situation? But that doesn't make it so like, oh well, she got what she deserved. It's kind of his perspective on it, his prerogative. And it's like, right, you have to be a little bit of a sociopath to kind of literally rob a lady who's supporting orphans and not give a shit. Like that's next level scummy. I mean, even Charlie said it herself. It's like, oh, we have a very old-fashioned term for that. It's called shitty. He can't even bring himself to give her the 20,000 just so she could give it to the orphans like Reggie was trying to. It's like, no. You have to work for me, then you can take your 20K cut and do whatever you want with it. It's like he's still like trying to bargain with it. I mean, they use the money that they made from their previous con for their next con, so it makes a lot of sense why he wouldn't want to give up that 20 G's, but still it is kind of shitty with the circumstances as they are. So Charlie's hands are kind of forced in the situation. So the next guy I get involved in with is this guy named Sketch, who seems pretty off, and it's just like, yeah, this, you can tell Charlie's like not vibing with the whole situation. I'm like, there's not something right about this. Like, this guy even admits that he's got a gambling addiction. You're like, and even Charlie's like, yeah, there's something about him, like most likely he runs with a mob. But the fact is, even Guy could tell like there is something going on here, but he gets blinded by greed when the guy's like, yo, 400,000, which he was like, oh, it's funny considering like he should have seen the signs, because that 400,000 is what they kind of set up as a mold, but he was so caught up in his own greed, like, oh my god, this is an opportunity, because he thinks himself hot shit. He considers like, right, Charlie can see through bullshit, he can too as well. And I do love that when Charlie tries to tell this guy later on, yo, this is a con, run. But the guy's like, no, you're not the only one that can see through lies, Charlie, which that statement ends up being ironic, even more ironic later on. Because she tried to stop this whole thing, because it's like, yeah, one of your golden rules is when your red flags that pops up, it's like, yo, when there's like that much money at play, it's like, we need a bailout, this isn't right. Because it's like we're mixing up with some dangerous stuff, and the whole point is people aren't supposed to get hurt, which obviously sadly wasn't applicable fully with like, the Regina of it all. But yeah, the whole con is set to kind of play out the way it is. But then when Sketch is in the room, uh, Charlie sees that he's a gun and is like, yo, Manny's gonna come in here, he's gonna get shot. I was like, dude, how the hell is this gonna go so wrong? And then Manny busts in, gets shot. Charlie and the guy struggle over the gun, and she shot him, which you kind of would think, like, I guess that should also been a sign too. Charlie didn't seem to, like, she was almost like, whoa, oh man, that's crazy. But it's like, would she really have that reaction? Because she's never killed anyone before. So I was like, that's probably not. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That, like I said, that in retrospect, that should have been a telltale sign. But then it turns out, he ran. I was like, and she's not chasing after him. I was like, what's going to go on here? Where he goes back, I was like, wait. The moment he got back with the money, I was like, it's a con. They switched it up because where I figured like a con might come into play at some point was like, I was like, it's got to be Manny's plan because Manny has studied. Guy, he knows the ins and outs. He knows his game kind of probably better than Guy. But also earlier in the episode when Charlie and Manny were talking, she was like, yo, Guy would never betray me and I would never betray him. Charlie hesitates for a second and then she's like, yeah, 6 years, you and Robin. She immediately skips over that because she could tell it was bullshit, but she didn't want to say anything. But she even knew like that. And I think that's probably what sparked that moment where she's like, I can use this to my advantage. Because I think because Manny's motivation was Guy needed to be stopped, but also like it was supposed to be like his redemption. Like, because she's like, yeah, you could do the whole Dexter thing of you can be like the con man that goes out to con man, which he's like, yeah, that's fine. But he's also like, I just don't want anyone to get hurt. And like Reggie was like a wake up call of like, oh, someone can get hurt and I never want to be in that situation again. So they're calling it quits for now. I was curious who Sketch was going to be, but then I was like, oh my God, you're Robin. Because he says it earlier in the episode. Guy never met Robin. I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful twist because he didn't see the con coming because he never wanted to get to know Manny. So it's like, yeah, they would have had to involve someone else, but it's easier to rely on someone you know and trust wholeheartedly. But it also helps that literally Guy wanted nothing to do with your personal life. So if he would have, and that's where I say the irony is he didn't see this con coming because he got so blinded, because, he can't see through bullshit the way Charlie can. And so he got blindsided by the person that, the student outdid the teacher this time. Even though he says he can read through bullshit, it's like he didn't see the one with Charlie coming because that was a double layered bullshit. She gave him that note just so that Guy could steal and be like, oh, so you try to warn that guy. But it's like layers upon layers of like you not seeing through it. Because he thought like he from the beginning thought he had a better like skill set that could beat Charlie's bullshit meter, but it's like, no, your bullshit meter cannot beat hers, and you didn't see it coming when she was bullshitting you, and so was Manny. So I thought that was just like, I thought in totality just beautifully done. Also, they kind of touched on it a little bit this episode because, like, when she was talking about Robin, with Manny and Robin, it's like, oh, she was like, I had someone, and it kind of cut away from it. But I brought it up last episode. I was like, I was curious if the whole she'd ever referenced the whole bill of it all, and I think that was kind of in reference, because that's the most recent love life situation she's had. It's the only love life situation. Well, outside, once again, the mountain situation in episode 9 of season 1. But either way, there was almost this interesting look also on Guy's face when the crew ended up getting... I mean, they were about to turn on him because, like, yo, you lost all our money. You got played. But before that could even happen, the police are arriving. But there's almost... I don't know if I was imagining that when he realizes he's like, Charlie Kill. He almost smiles because he's like, you got me. Like, I think he appreciates a good con. So he's like, you conned me. That's good. I don't know if he pieced it together that it was like... I mean, he probably knows, like... I don't know if he gave that credit totally to Charlie or does he... Because he doesn't say Manny or anything. So I'm wondering, does he just think like, oh... Charlie conned me and not realizing Manny had conned him as well? I don't know. But he, like I said, there's a little smirk. It almost seems like he's impressed. I am curious, like, out of anyone, I'm curious what's happening to Cliff. I'm sure the rest of the crew's going to, like, reduce their sentence by turning on him. I could also see it being a thing of Cliff does it in particular, especially because she's got that new job lined up. So not unless they're able to scatter, but the police are already on their way, so they probably are all going to get busted. She is also the one that kept extensive notes because she is the minute taker of the group. So I'm sure that makes her a pretty good witness that can probably like get an immunity deal and like screw over everyone for everything that's said, like everyone's part to play and everything. Because Gene was the accountant. There was what's the other guy's name? David, who was like the actor who went to Juilliard and stuff like that, you know. So, but obviously the episode ending with Charlie dumping off the money, and I love that the thing was still stuck. And what happens? She just kind of knocks it and pulls it out. It's almost kind of like this. Oh, just if Regina had done that, we wouldn't even be in the situation. Well, at least this particular situation wouldn't have sadly turned out the way it is. So there's a silver lining to a very shitty and dark and sad situation. Like I mean, I think a good, that's a good con for you, where it's like you just don't see the twist coming. And like I said, the Regina killing herself thing, I did not know what direction this episode was going to go, and I was not expecting that to be the direction. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.